Hi, I'm Snigdha Sharma and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we discuss Pakistan's latest allegations against India. We also talk about Punjab's power crisis and the death of activist Father Stan Swamy. Beginning with Pakistan. On Sunday, 4 months of peace between India and Pakistan ended when the neighbouring country made some serious allegations against India. It said that the 23rd of June bomb blast near the home of Lashkar-e-Taiba founder and Mumbai terror attack mastermind Hafiz Saeed was quote-unquote India-sponsored terrorism. A powerful car bomb had gone off outside the home of Hafiz Saeed, killing 3 people and injuring over 20 others. 2 days ago, Pakistan's National Security Advisor Moeed Yusuf told the media that the mastermind of the attack was an Indian citizen associated with RAW. Even Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan alleged on Twitter that the planning and financing of this heinous terror attack had links to Indian sponsorship of terrorism against Pakistan. He went ahead and asked the global community to mobilize international institutions against what he called rogue behavior. So to understand the basis of these allegations and how they might affect India-Pakistan relations, we spoke to Indian Express's Shubhajit Roy. So, Shubhajit, these are grave accusations. On what basis is Pakistan making them?
Pakistan claims that it has electronic as well as evidence from its investigations into the bomb blast which took place in Lahore on June 23rd. And on the basis of its investigations into that incident, it has claimed that a group of people all linked to the Indian Intelligence Agency, RNDW, which is the Research and Analysis Wing. It is involved of sponsoring the terrorist attack in Pakistan. Now, these are very serious allegations, and they were made by the National Security Advisor of Pakistan, Moeed Yusuf, and a press conference took place on Sunday in which the Pakistan Punjab police chief was also present. He also shared details about the investigation. And so this is where it is.
So at Sunday's press conference, Pakistan's Moeed Yusuf said that after forensic analysis of electronic equipment recovered from the alleged terrorists, and I quote, "We have absolutely no doubt or reservation in informing you that the main mastermind belongs to RAW, the Indian Intelligence Agency, is an Indian national and is based in India." Unquote. Ghani, the police chief of Pakistan's Punjab, who was also present at the press conference, claimed that the counter-terrorism department had caught the main perpetrators behind the attack as well as their facilitators. Ghani said that the linchpin who connects the attacks with the people outside Pakistan was a man called Peter Paul David. According to him, Peter was the one who arranged the car used in the bomb blast. Ghani also claimed that they have details of Peter's financing, his WhatsApp calls, and all other records. Now coming back to Shubhajit. So, Shubhajit, you had done another report on how there was a drone flying above the Indian High Commission in Pakistan, and this was not long before the drone attack on Jammu's Indian Air Force base, right?
So, about 3 days after the Lahore terror attack, as you would know, that 3 or 4 days later, actually, there was an attack on the Jammu Air Force Station where 2 drones, explosives were dropped at the Air Force Station on the 27th of June early morning, 1:30 a.m. to the Sunday. And now, just hours before that, this drone incident happened. Indian High Commission, which was in Islam, which was having an event, having a party to celebrate India 75th anniversary, and within the High Commission compound, which was being attended by several diplomats from foreign countries as well as Indian diplomats, and some Pakistani nationals were also at that particular party, which is essentially an outdoor event. Suddenly they observed that there was a drone hovering above the Indian High Commission premises. Now, obviously, it caused an alarm, and the Indian High Commission then immediately alerted the Pakistan security officials, who essentially are in charge of the diplomatic security in Islamabad. Indian High Commission is actually located in a very, very high security zone in Islamabad. It's like about just over a kilometer away from Pakistan's foreign ministry. There are several other embassies which are located adjacent to the Indian High Commission. The Supreme Court of Pakistan is also located very close to the Indian High Commission. So it's a very, very high security zone. So a drone hovering around at the Indian High Commission was alarming, and the Indian High Commission then took it up with the Pakistan authorities, giving out the details and asked them to beef up the security and so that no such breach takes place again.
Right. So, next, Shubhajit, can you tell us about these back channel talks that had been going on between the two countries over the last few months, and why were they so significant?
Yeah, so there have been some reports and some suggestion that back channel talks have been taking place between India and Pakistan, and the government of India has not denied reports of those talks so far. It is said that National Security Advisor Ajit Doval has been in conversation with Pakistan's NSA Moeed Yusuf and the ISI chief of Pakistan, and he's also been in touch with Pakistan Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa. So these conversations apparently then led to the current of almost 4 month long ceasefire that has been observed by two sides. If you remember, in February this year, the two sides, the militaries of the two sides, declared that they will adhere to the ceasefire agreement between the two sides. And this ceasefire agreement has been in place for several years, but they have been violated by the two sides. But now, for the last 4 months, since February, end of February, there has been sort of calm at the LOC, which is the line of control, as well as the international border with Pakistan. The two NSAs also publicly met for the first time. In the sense, we don't know whether they had a bilateral meeting or not, but they did sort of participate in a meeting in Dushanbe in 23rd, 24th of June, and where it was a meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries, the NSAs representing those Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries. And since India and Pakistan both are members of the SCO, as it is popularly called, they participated in it. And we don't know whether there was a separate bilateral on the side or not, but they participated in the meeting and they agreed to a statement issued by Tajikistan where it said that they will cooperate on terrorism, against extremism, and all those issues. And that was interesting. But it also emerged that the Indian NSA, Ajit Doval, he had raised the issue of Pakistan-based terror groups. Action should be taken against them, and how SCO should cooperate on tackling terrorism. So it was sort of also a hard message to the Pakistan NSA who was there in the room in that particular meeting of group of NSAs, which took place in the capital of Tajikistan, which is Dushanbe.
And finally, Shubhajit, if you can tell us, what do these accusations mean for the future of India-Pakistan relations?
Well, you see, for the last 4 months, because of these back channel talks, which led to this adherence to ceasefire, the temperature between the two sides was pretty manageable. And there was already sort of talk of peace process being starting off in the next few months or, depending on how situation evolves. Now, this current set of allegations that have come from Pakistan's side is a setback to that process of rapprochement that was underway between the two countries. We have to see how these allegations are refuted by the Indian government. There has been no statement from the Indian side so far, but sources told the Indian Express Sunday that they rejected the allegations and these are false and baseless. But we are yet to see how the Indian government responds, because it's been 24 hours and we are yet to see a statement from New Delhi.
And now coming to Punjab. For the first time in almost a decade, Punjab saw a slew of restrictions being imposed on power or electricity consumption. The state's agriculture sector is not getting its promised 8-hour power supply, and domestic consumers too are dealing with long power cuts. To deal with this, the state-owned power utility PSPCL has imposed a 2-day compulsory cut on high-consumption industries to divert power for crops and the domestic sector. Also, there is a ban on running of air conditioners in government offices whose timings have already been curtailed from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. because of the shortage. So what has led to this unprecedented power crisis in Punjab? We spoke to our state correspondent Raakhi Jagga to find out. So, Raakhi, can you begin by telling us what led to this power crisis in Punjab?
As of now, paddy is the major reason, because paddy transplantation, it starts from June 10 onwards, and it is a water intensive crop and it needs water. It didn't rain much or as well, that is also true. At the same time, the government's own thermals have been closed, so government didn't make much planning ahead of the paddy season. It's not that paddy cultivation is the only reason. Planning part is also a major reason, that they didn't make enough preparation ahead of the paddy season. A number of technical services union of this power corporation, they complained that the stores of the PSPCL, they are not having enough transformers or the other repair materials. If the technical fault develops, they don't have enough supplies to repair those faults. So it's both ways. The government is not having enough supplies to repair the faults, and there are a lot of grid stations which are overloaded and they have not even done load shedding well in time. So it is both ways, lack of preparation and an increased load because of paddy transplantation and the dry spell for the past few days.
Right. So next, can you shed some light on how big is this gap between the demand and supply of power in Punjab?
If Punjab is given 100% power supply for industry, agriculture, domestic, then the total demand in Punjab will be more than 14,000 megawatt. And as of now, Punjab is not able to produce and buy more than 13,500 megawatt. So at one point of time, there was a gap of 1,500 megawatt as well. On any given day, the gap is not less than 1,000 megawatt. So to cover up that 1,000 megawatt gap, they are imposing restrictions, and this is how they are balancing. They are able to provide agriculture supply to the farmers, and even they are able to provide power supply to the domestic consumers.
So, Raakhi, to help us understand this crisis better, can you tell us how much power can Punjab produce on its own, and also to what extent is it dependent on other states?
Punjab has their own thermal plants in Ropar district and in Bathinda. There is one place called Lehra Mohabbat. They have one thermal plant in Bathinda. So they have their own capacity of thermals as 1,760 megawatt. And they are largely dependent on the private thermals, which are again located. One is in Bathinda, another is in Goindwal, and the third one is in Rajpura. So the dependency on the private thermals is of 3,920 megawatts. And their own generation is 1,760 megawatt. I'm talking about the thermals. And they had their own thermal plant, one more thermal plant in Bathinda, which was generating 460 megawatt. They had closed down that thermal plant last year, saying that it's outdated and it can't generate any more power, or they're spending more on it rather than it is giving any results to them. However, the electricity engineers, they had outrightly rejected this decision of the government. And in Ropar as well, two thermals which can generate 420 megawatt, they are lying closed for the past 2 years. So because government closed down their more than 840 megawatt thermal units, so they are largely dependent on the private thermals. And apart from that, they are buying power from the this northern regional corridor. So they can buy up to 7,400 megawatt, and as of now, they are buying to the maximum capacity. They are dependent on the hydel units as well within the state and few of the hydel units in Himachal. So their own generation is around 6,700 megawatt. I mean, the potential generation on any given day, they generate 6,000 or maybe sometimes even less than that. So overall, I already told you that if they purchase it from the outside states, from the northern regional corridor, the total demand ends up more than 14,000 megawatt.
Okay, so to what extent are these restrictions working? I mean, surely this cannot be the long-term solution to the crisis, right?
Yeah, they are just praying to the god. I mean, if it rains, I mean, it's all they are dependent on the rain gods. As of now, the restrictions which are being imposed since July 1, they are compulsory weekly offs on large scale industry, the steel rolling mills, the furnaces. And they are imposing these restrictions in phases. From July 1 to July 4, they imposed the weekly off restrictions on the industry with a 3 hours notice only. That was in the central zone and in the north zone, which covered Ludhiana district, which is an industrial town, Jalandhar, Nawashahar, Hoshiarpur. And now from today onwards, the central zone and the north zone restrictions are over. And now they have started the same restrictions in the border zone and in the south zone of Punjab to cover around 6 to 7 more districts where the large industries, steel rolling mills and furnaces, they will be closed till July 7th. And the government offices, they continue to open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and they are not allowed to use the air conditioners. So as of now, they have not given us any deadline that till how long they are going to continue with these restrictions. But the Engineers Association, I interacted with them. They told that till the time it doesn't rain, these restrictions are likely to continue in the coming days. Maybe some another industry can be included in that, or maybe some a mode of restriction can change. But till the time the situation doesn't ease out, I mean, if the monsoon doesn't start, the restrictions are likely to continue.
So, Rakhi, as we can see from the news that is coming in about this problem, the issue is being politicized. What is the stance that political parties are taking?
Now, though this issue has become talk in the whole state, there had been so many protests in the entire state by different political parties, the opposition like Shiromani Akali Dal, Bharatiya Janata Party, Aam Aadmi Party. They organized protests at district levels. They even out the power grid stations as well. And at the same time, the political parties, they are making promises as well. I mean, Aam Aadmi Party's chief and Delhi CM Arvind Kejriwal, he visited Chandigarh recently and he announced that if his party makes a government, they will be giving the first 300 units for free of cost. They won't be charging for that to the consumers. As of now, already first 200 units are being given free to the scheduled caste and the BPL families in Punjab. And Shiromani Akali Dal's president Sukhbir Badal, he announced that he will cut down these power bills to half, as he said that power is very costly in Punjab.
Right. But isn't power for agricultural purposes already free in the state?
There is around 8,000 crore subsidy every year which the government has to pay to the Punjab State Power Corporation Limited in lieu of those power bills generated by these 14 lakh tube wells. And the government doesn't pay the subsidy in time, and because of which the PSPCL is running in over 20,000 crore loss. It's not the only reason that the subsidy, there are many other reasons as well that PSPCL is running into loss. And the industry, although they're agreeing with this 3 days compulsory weekly off on them, but at the same time, they are very angry. They're the category which is paying the power bills, they are being told to shut down. And the category which is not paying the power bills, they are being provided 8 hours committed power supply for the crops.
And finally, Rakhi, if you can end by telling us, what is the Punjab government's take on this entire affair?
Now the state government says that they have eased out the situation. Yesterday only the Power Corporation chairman, A. Venu Prasad, he's an IS officer, he's the chairman come managing director. He told that from the past 3 days, they have been able to provide 8 hours committed power supply to the agriculture producers. They are not imposing any power cut on the domestic areas except for the restrictions which I told you earlier on industry and the government offices, they are not imposing any more restrictions, and they are saying that if needed, they can buy more power from the national corridor as well. In addition to this, there is one thermal plant, Talwandi Sabo thermal plant, which is a private. They have even issued penalty notice to them that because that power plant can generate 1980 megawatt of power, but it is generating only 660 megawatt because two of its units are out of order. So they have issued the plant penalty notice that why shouldn't we impose penalty on you because you have not made the plant ready ahead of the paddy season.
And finally, coming to Father Stan Swamy. Father Stan Swamy, the well-known Jesuit priest and tribal rights activist who was under arrest in the Elgar Parishad case, breathed his last in a Mumbai hospital on Monday. Doctors at the Holy Family Hospital in Bandra informed the Bombay High Court that the 84-year-old Swamy had passed away around 1:30 p.m. His lawyers had moved the Bombay High Court on Monday morning seeking an urgent hearing of his medical bail plea after his health deteriorated on Sunday and he was put on ventilator support. On hearing the news, a Bombay High Court division bench said, and I quote, "With all humility at our command, we are really shocked by hearing this news. Therefore, last hearings, we immediately allowed him to remain in hospital of his choice. We have no words to express." Unquote. His lawyer Mihir Desai said that Father Stan Swamy was in the intensive care unit of the hospital, and he was put on ventilator support on Sunday after he had difficulty in breathing and his oxygen levels were fluctuating. Swamy was arrested from Ranchi on the 8th of October last year and was lodged in Taloja Central Jail. He had sought interim bail on the grounds of the pandemic, citing Parkinson's disease among other health issues. He had also filed for bail on merits before the special court, stating that he had been arrested for challenging the indiscriminate arrest of thousands of young Adivasis labelled as Naxals, and that there was no proof of his involvement with the banned CPI Maoists as alleged by the central agency. The special court disallowed his pleas. Before he was shifted to the Holy Family Hospital on the 30th of May following directions from the Bombay High Court, Swamy had appeared before the High Court through video conference from Taloja Jail. Swamy had then told the court that when he was brought to jail, his core systems were still functional, but there has been a steady regression since then and he was unable to perform his daily chores, including eating and walking without assistance. In the previous hearings, the courts had noted that there were serious medical issues after perusing the hospital medical director's reports on Father Stan Swamy. Father Swamy had spent over 3 decades of his life in Jharkhand working on various issues of the Adivasi communities on land, forest and labour rights. This included the questioning of the non-implementation of the 5th schedule of the Constitution, which stipulated the setting up of a tribes advisory council with members solely of the Adivasi community for their protection, well-being and development in the state. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Snigdha Sharma, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. You can follow us and leave us feedback on Facebook or Twitter at Express Podcasts or send us an email at podcasts@indianexpress.com. And if you like the show, please do subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts from so more people can find us. You can also look for us in the audio section in the top right corner of our website, indianexpress.com.